NieR Automata. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So if you want to get into the statistics of NieR Automata, for a game that's 5 years old, this game has shipped over 6.5 million units worldwide. And for its 5th anniversary, it had a ton of collaborative things going on, as well as announcements like for their anime, new merchandise, and just new stuff in general. So I'm a huge NieR fan, and when I say that, I mean that I get into everything NieR. I made it my goal this year to actually get into NieR Replicant, where I actually completed the game, and I'm currently working on ending E right now. I got into NieR Reincarnation and started making content for that, and I started to cover a whole bunch of things when it came to NieR, at least in my blogs and stuff, not so much on my channel. So naturally, when I heard that Punishing Gray Raven had a NieR collaborative event going on, I was really interested in getting into it. The thing with Punishing Gray Raven is it's a Chinese game. It's made by Kuro Game, and it was released worldwide, I believe, in 2021. But I never knew about its global release. I thought it was only in the the Asian regions, and so I never knew that we had an English version of the game in order for me to play. So it wasn't really something that I looked into it, but I had heard that Punishing Gray Raven was very reminiscent of NieR Automata, and so it was something that was on my radar, just not anything that I had looked too deeply on. So when I heard that that we had a global server that I could get into, and 2, that they were running a NieR event, I had to start playing the game for myself. And let me just say, it has been a wild ride. The NieR Automata collaboration event, this was a rerun event, and it was called Untitled Chapter, and there was just a ton of stuff that went into this event. There were many different pieces that all sort of fit together, and for someone just joining the game, it was very overwhelming. There was a lot of things to get used to, and trying to figure out like where to go, what you were supposed to do, how it was supposed to work. That was a little bit of trial and error at first, and so I'm lucky that I was able to finish the event within the time limit. The event ran all through the month of July, so it was a rather long event. You had plenty of time to do it, especially if you had started on day 1. But as someone coming in about a week into the event, I was barely finishing it. Right now the event has 4 more days left, so that was a bit of a hurdle for me to try and get used to, especially since there's some prerequisites before you start the event. So let's just go ahead and take a moment and break it all down piece by piece as we go through how the event works, what it all entailed, and we talk about the ending. Untitled Chapter was actually very unique as an event story, and mostly that's because I think I had it in my mind that this was a NieR Automata collaboration event, and therefore I thought the story would actually revolve around the androids themselves. Because thinking back to the other collaboration events that I've done, NieR Reincarnation actually covered NieR Automata and had an entire visual novel sort of thing where they went into a story from NieR Automata. Then you had Yorha Dark Apocalypse, which was Final Fantasy XIV's way of collabing with NieR Automata, and again you had familiar characters. You had 2B, 9S, and then you had 2P, the mock unit. So I was definitely expecting more involvement of the androids, but they really were not the main characters of this story for Untitled Chapter. Instead, Punishing Gray Raven actually came up with a unique concept where they went into the School of Sapienism, I think it was called. And so with the School of Sapienism, they basically felt that humanity was just doomed, and they felt like humanity's future was in memetics. Now, don't ask me what memetics are, because I would not be able to tell you off the top of my head. But I assume it has something to do with machinery, because they left their fate up to machines. Machines that would continue to conduct war until a champion rose among them. And as you progress through the story, you start to learn about this school of Sapienism and their beliefs. But you also start to notice that for everything that they hate about humanity, they also reflect that in themselves, such as the way that they conflict in their ideas, the fact that they can't agree on where humanity is going and what it should be doing. And so there are various characters within this whole tale, but mostly it focuses on the Punishing Grey Ravens, or just the Grey Ravens. I don't know why I call them the Punishing Grey Ravens, but it focuses on the Grey Ravens conducting a mission for Babylonia, where they find this mysterious facility and they delve deep into this facility only to find that there's a city underneath, an entire city. And the city is known as Naraka. And what happens in Naraka is you have the blue machines fighting against the red machines in an eternal war. And each time it seems that the war happens, there is never a victor. And through the war, supposedly a champion is supposed to rise. And when the champion has risen, it will present itself on the strip of truth. And then Father, quote-unquote, Father will awaken. And of course, this is all cryptic stuff, and we don't really understand what that means. And then we find out that there are not only red and blue machines, but there are also defects. And there are two main characters in this series as far as defective machinery goes. And that's the bots known as Asker and Embla. And they seem to be brother and sister. So our Grey Ravens are going through this city, wondering why the machines are fighting each other, wondering what this school of Sapienism is, and what their whole purpose was, and why there was a whole city built underneath, you know, the surface and all this. And eventually they run into Asker and Embla, who then kind of explains what this is all about, and how their whole purpose is to awaken Father. And so the Grey Ravens help Asker and Embla try in order to awaken this Father so that they might get answers. And in the process, they learn that the School of Sapienism is no more. The people that were supposed to come back to the surface once a champion had been chosen are no more, due to the decision of one old man who was very close to the director, who decided that humans were flawed creatures and always had been, and the way that the school acted in its final days had showed him that, and so he felt that the future belonged to machines, and therefore he sacrificed every one of the students of Sapienism and everyone in the school of Sapienism so that machines could one day take over once they had developed a consciousness, that they would have machine-driven purpose, but they would have human consciousness, which would then leave them no room for error. And he was looking for a machine that did not want war, which ended up being the combination of Asker and Embla. So you fight the final boss, and then you learn that you kind of ruin the experiment. And that's really what it comes down to, is that you ruin the experiment. The thing is that there was always going to be an Asker bot, there was always going to be an Embla bot, no matter how many times the war happened, no matter how many times the city was reset. The problem is that Asker and Embla were supposed to develop on their own. They were supposed to grow and evolve to not want war, but also to be strong enough to defeat the final boss themselves, because only then would they be able to thrive. And so you, in helping Asker and Embla reach the final boss, and then in defeating the final boss, you essentially freed Asker and Embla, but you freed a version of them that was much too weak and not human enough, and therefore when they reach the surface, they are essentially destroyed. Therefore, you ruined the entire experiment, and therefore you basically ruined humanity's last hope. It's very sad, it's very weird, and it makes you feel defeated rather than feeling victorious, which is very, it's a staple trait for NieR, so I'm not even shocked that this was the case. But what really caught me again was that this had nothing to do with Yorha. This had nothing to do with 9S, 2B, A2, you know, the collaboration characters that everybody's trying desperately to get. They're in the event, but they're not part of the main story, which is the Untold Naraka. So this is why I was taken aback. I kept waiting for it. I kept waiting for 2B to show up, or someone else to show up. Much like the Yorha Dark Apocalypse in Final Fantasy XIV. I waited for them to just pop out of nowhere and talk about how they had mysteriously been transported to this place, and now they were trying to, you know, destroy this one thing. But no, it never happened, and it's just your characters in the Grey Ravens and the random machines, and just these logs scattered about from the School of Sapienism. So it really just took me back that it was a completely just unique story, and it followed the Grey Ravens rather than the actual event characters. So I've never seen a collaboration do this before, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And the story itself was interesting. It's very slow going at first. A lot of Punishing Grey Raven's story is given to you very, very slowly. You're only given it through tiny spoonfuls. So I wasn't really, I don't know, I didn't get into it at first. I did the first chapter and I was like, this is alright. Second chapter, things started picking up. Third chapter, I was totally into it, and then by the fourth chapter, you could not pull me away. So, it definitely was like a slow burn as far as the enjoyment for me went when it came to the story, but honestly, once it got into the thick of it, I could not look away. A friend and I were actually talking about this, but the way that the event is actually played is kind of difficult because there's many different working pieces when it comes to this event. So not only do you have the story mission of Untold Naraka, you also have the Reverb archives, and the two of them actually go hand in hand. So the main story is usually divided up. It's divided up into 4 chapters, and those 4 chapters usually have 3 missions apiece. They have 3 missions, and then they have an archival battle. And so the way that it works is you play the story missions as the Grey Ravens. So you have Lucia, Lee, and Liv. So you play the event, or the main story of the event, as Lucia, Liv, and Lee. And then once you get to the archival battle is against a classic PGR boss, but you only face it as the androids, A2, 9S, and 2B. The thing is that you get a score for fighting, the boss, and the goal is to get the Reverbal Archive to 100%. Naturally, the stronger that the androids are, the easier it's going to be to reach 100%. So, in order to train up the androids, you have to do the the Reverb Archive battles. And the Reverb Archive battles are in 2 parts. So, there are the missions, just the missions that you go on with the androids, which earn you supplies. And then there are the side quests, which unlock certain traits of those androids. So you have to do the quest, the supply quest, in order to gain experience to level up the android, and to unlock those other side quests, which then give you the android's main skill, their passive skill, it ups their stats. So these are the things that you have to do in order to unlock that. There's also training you have to do, but I don't think you have to do that. It's just kind of optional if you want to learn how the androids work, because they all have their own unique skills that function in certain ways. So once you're done playing through the story mode for a chapter, then you come to the archival boss battle. You want to make sure that the androids that you have are trained up as much as possible. And in the beginning, you won't really have a lot of androids because you just start out with A2, then you unlock 9S, and then finally you unlock 2B. In order to unlock the androids, you have to complete the main story. So what you're going to want to do with this event, and like I said, it jumps all over the place. You're going to be doing a lot of back and forth. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and you want to play through the you want to play through the 3 chapters, or the 3 missions in a chapter. Then when you get to the archival battle, go ahead and give the archival battle a try. This will give you a small percentage. It won't be 100% right away, but that's fine, just ignore it. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to repeat this process for chapters 2 and chapters 3, if you can. And what this will do is this will unlock all the androids. This will, you already start out with A2 unlocked, but this will unlock 9S and this will unlock 2B. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go into the Reverb archives, and you're going to train up those androids. Do them one at a time. So, like I said, start out with how they are in order. So A2, 9S, 2B. And the thing with the event is, when you're doing the Reverb archives, you have a separate stamina. It's its own sort of supply. And you start out with 15, but that 15 quickly gets used up when you're leveling A2. And then you only get 3 that are refreshed each day. So, you definitely have to use these things wisely. So as you're leveling A2, you're going to unlock those side stages, which then allow you to complete those in order to gain her skills. Once you have unlocked all 4 of A2's skills, and you've leveled her up to level 5, which is max, move on to the next android, which is 9S, and rinse and repeat. And you're going to do this for all 3 androids. Once you have all 3 androids unlocked, and you have all 3 androids maxed out, then by all means, go after the archival bosses. It'll be so easy to get 100% at that point, and it's a breeze. And you should be able to knock out at least the first 3. When you get to the final chapter, you're actually going to unlock a 4th Reverb archive, which then gives you more skills for the entire party. The good thing about this is that all 4 of the side courses are unlocked right away, so you can do them right away. And the other good thing about it is that the mission for this not only gives you a pretty decent amount of supply to raise the level of the pod that you get, but it also gives you 350 coins per mission, which, if you're trying to get those final items in the secret shop, this is a good place to grind coins. So, after you've beaten the story, and you've already done all the Reverb archives, and all the androids are at 4 stars, and all the Reverb archives just in general are at 4 stars. Once you've done that, then you go and you fight the final boss, the final archival battle, which is against Machiavelli. And once you get that to 100%, then the screen goes red, and you have then unlocked the final mission. And let me just tell you, when I say that this final mission, I didn't expect it. I saw the achievement, and I saw that there was a final mission, but I seriously thought that maybe just completing all the achievements was just the final mission, and I didn't think that there was actually a final mission in the game. So when I actually saw this pop up, I almost threw my phone. It was almost like a creepypasta, just everything starting to glitch out and go red, like I almost screamed. But it's probably one of the coolest ways to start a final mission, in my opinion, and it just shows that this collaboration event it goes hard. It went above and beyond most of the other collaboration events I have seen. So top-notch effort from Kuro Games, because this was an amazing experience. But yeah, so as you can see, it's a lot of back and forth. You want to do the story, but then you want to do the Reverb archive, and then you want to try the archive boss, and then, if you can't do that, then, and if you're too weak to do it, then you have to look into, the mechanics of the boss and trying to dodge better, but maybe you have to level up your pod some more, which means doing more Reverb archives. So again, it's just bouncing back and forth, using your stamina wisely, using your coins wisely to get the things that you want. And you just have to kind of juggle all those things together during the event to make the most of it. Because while the event isn't hard per se, it is very time consuming, and with the limited stamina that they give you, they make it so that you can't knock everything out in just one day, and you actually have to decide like how you're going to spend your time in order to get the most out of this event, which I think is pretty cool. I do like it when events sort of make it challenging but not impossible, and in this way I feel like the NieR Automata collab with PGR, I feel like it was extremely fair, especially for new players like me. Because in order to even do the event, you have to reach level 40 in the main game, so the fact that they kind of put it behind that wall to make sure you knew what you were doing before you hopped into the event, and then also made the event super possible even if you were a little bit late coming to the event, I think that's a grounds, like that's basically just what makes a good game versus what makes a really crappy one. I'm not even sure how I would begin to describe the final mission, other than the fact that my heart was racing the entire time that I was playing it. I was just freaking out, and my hands were shaking, because I didn't really know what to expect, because the thing is it asked if I wanted to try and rescue the data, and the thing is NieR as a game is a massive troll. And not that I think that PGR would do this. I don't think that they would necessarily do this, but I've learned to trust no one when it comes to NieR. And so when it asked me if I wanted to try saving the data, and that if I, chose not to, it might, I guess the implication was that it might delete itself if I chose not to rescue it. So I didn't want to risk just ending the event early because I chose the wrong thing. But at the same time, I didn't even know what to expect when it came to rescuing the data. I didn't know if there was going to actually be a final boss fight. I didn't know if there was going to be, a whole new section of levels I would have to complete, or a whole new part of the story that I would have to complete. And so when I clicked yes, I didn't know what to expect, and so I was freaking out. And I'm actually just glad that I had mind enough to start recording, because I had started to flip out so much. Because again, this was just not something that I was expecting. I didn't think that it was gonna happen. So I was just like, what do I do now? Like, what's gonna happen? Am I even leveled up enough for this? And I guess that's what really concerned me, because when I go into the final mission, when you go into that fight with Machiavelli, this man two-shotted me. Like, it felt like I was playing freaking Dark Souls or Elden Ring at first. Like, he would just hit you and immediately you were just down. And I think that's the point. I think that you're supposed to die at least once or twice, just so that it can kind of push that point across that it's going to be hard, but that you need to keep going. And it's definitely not an event for the weak. I do love the fact that the final mission actually had to do with the androids. I was sort of worried that it would come down to more stuff that had to do with the Grey Ravens, so I was really happy when it was only you playing as 2B. And fighting the final boss, which was Machiavelli again. So you literally fight this guy like 3 times. It's annoying. But he's a really, really good and challenging boss fight. And he has 2 phases. I was actually the most surprised that they included cutscenes, and the cutscenes were just so good. Now granted, PGR does have its own sort of style, and the 3D models, while good, clearly aren't like, top tier by any means when you compare it to, the real NieR Automata. But the thing is for what it has and what it was able to do, the movements of the characters were super fluid, the battle looked really, really good. So the cutscenes were actually excellent, and I wish that PGR made more use of these sorts of cutscenes, because I know that they do have actual cutscenes, but ultimately they mostly just go with their visual novel style. So I'm glad that for this final mission, it was based more in these cutscenes. Now, naturally, the sacrifice you're asked to make at the end is very reminiscent of NieR Automata, when you are going through a certain ending that does ask you to delete your save file. So there's that. Now, once you do finish the final mission, you then are given a pod collectible, which is really nice, and you can no longer tackle the story mode. which is, I'm glad that I recorded it. I'm glad I recorded it along the way rather than trying to record it later, because then I would have missed the entire thing. Because once you sacrifice your data, then you just basically go to a screen where it says data complete, and then there's no way to access the story further. However, you still have access to the Reverb archive. Originally, my fear was that the way that you could grind coins would be completely gone, and that also worried a friend of mine because she hadn't really finished the event, and she had kind of just blown through it. So, I'm glad that the Reverb archive is still available for those that want to keep you know, grinding for those coins, because there are a bunch of goodies in the secret shop that are worth investing for. You want to spend your coins on, you know, the A2 shards in order to get A2 as a unit, and then you want to go ahead and spend your money probably on the coding for A2, which is 3,000 coins. And then there are a bunch of lunar tiers, and each lunar tier, which can be given as a gift, those are 50 coins apiece. So the more you can get, the better. But as far as the final mission goes, it was excellent. Just, I could feel the adrenaline rushing through me. There's always something super worrying, like, I mean, not even worrying. There's always something really good when a boss makes you fear for, like, everything. Where you feel that any moment you could just lose, and then you're gonna lose everything, and then you're not gonna be able to go back, like... To be that scared of a final boss, I think, is what makes a good final boss. And the fact that this final mission just pops up out of nowhere and doesn't just give you the option for it in a menu, it just throws it in your face. They really knew what they were doing, and it really just got me going. And, so it was one of those things where it's like, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I started sweating, my hands were shaking, my heart was pounding out of my chest, and that's how you know that this final mission, like, it's no joke. And I do like that it gave that nod to NieR Automata, the biggest moment of it, which is that sacrifice. I like that it kind of embodied that in its own way without it being actually you giving up your account. I feel like the way that it's written, of course, people are going to think that they are asking you to delete your account. But I can say, sorry, I yawned. I can say that that's not the case with PGR. And so you don't have to worry about your save file being deleted. You don't have to worry about losing all your characters. It's not like that. It just comes down to you can no longer play the story mode anymore. So it's meant to mimic NieR Automata in that sense, but it doesn't actually go through all the way like NieR Automata does, which makes it pretty neat. In conclusion, this was one of the best events I'd ever played, especially when it came to NieR collaborations, and I honestly think that it's my favorite outside of YoRHa Dark Apocalypse. NieR Reincarnation did a really good one, just as far as the visual novel goes, and it's always well put together, but it is essentially pretty boring. I don't know anything about Babylon's Fall, but I heard it was just a bunch of reused assets with an occasional skin over to make it look like NieR Automata, so I heard that it really wasn't all that good. And then, of course, you had the Sinnoh Alice collaboration, which I guess people said was okay, but Sinnoh Alice is very hit or miss, and I've never played it myself, so I can't really say for sure. What I can say is that I thoroughly enjoyed this event. I liked the complexity of it, I liked the multiple pieces that all sort of came together at the end, and I like how unique it was, and that the main story did not focus on the androids, and that you really didn't get that fan service until the very end when you were doing the final mission. But I do like that the androids were still involved because you had to use them for the Reverb archives. So it's just like they had their purpose, but they didn't have the main spotlight on them, which was really cool. I also like that two of the characters were very easy to get, and there was only one character that was super hard to get. I always hate it when they have like event banners where you can get all 3 characters, and you have to roll for all 3, and then you're only bound to get 1 or 2 if you're lucky. A2 can be bought using the secret currency, because you can buy all 50 of her shards. 9S you got from logging in for 7 days straight, and the only one that you had to do was 2B, and when they did her banner increase, I literally got her on my first pull of 10. So... you know, I got all 3 characters, and while I might not be able to max them out and turn them into triple S rank characters, I'm just happy to have them, because they are super powerful, they look really good, and they've just been a great asset for my team. So I do love that it seems to be very friendly for free-to-play players or free-to-play accounts. And I also like the fact that as a newbie, I was still able to pick up this event because there weren't a lot of prerequisites or requirements in order for me to do the event. The only thing you had to do was get to level 40, and by the time you're level 40, you have a good enough grasp of how PGR works in order to figure out how the event works. So I was able to do it pretty easily, and like I said, I finished it. I finished the event I think with 4 days, with 4 days left to go. So when I started, there were 28 days in the event. I managed to beat it or finish it within 24, and that was because I was missing days as well, and because I didn't understand the stamina. So, you know, it's doable. It's definitely something that's doable, and if you're grinding it every day, you will not have any problem with it. If you're trying to do it last minute, clearly you're not going to finish it in 4 days. I'm just being honest. So the event, if you want to get into it right now, it's a little bit too late, but because they've already rerun this event once, and because it is one of the more popular events, I would hope that they do rerun it in the future, especially since PGR and NieR Automata are very similar in their concept. So, but unfortunately when it comes to events, rerunning them is never a guarantee, so you kind of gotta take a gamble as to whether or not you want to wait on something until it comes back, or if you want to get everything as soon as you can. Definitely if the event came back, I'd be rolling for those characters that I don't, or the characters extras, so that I can rank them up. But like I said, I got very lucky. I do have all 3 units, and I finished the final mission, so I don't have anything to worry about. I would definitely recommend trying out PGR just in general, because honestly, through trying to get the event done and just playing it for the sake of the event, I have found that I actually really like this game. It has a very simple combat mechanic, but at the same time, it's much better than any auto battler. So it's very reminiscent of hack and slash sorts of games, and what it comes down to is you're just trying to collect 3 orbs of the same color in order to execute deadly combos that deal a lot of damage, but also there's a story in between. And there's not only the story, but there's also hidden stories as well. So this game seems to have a lot of lore to it, it seems to have a lot of events going, it seems very kind to free-to-play accounts, and also seems very balanced. There's also a meta if you want it, so if you're more into the competitive scene and PvP, then PGR definitely has something like that for you. And it has many, many ways of playing the game, so I wouldn't think that any 2 people play the game the exact same or for the exact reasons. So I'd say definitely give it a try and check it out. Like I said, you probably won't be able to do the event, but at the same time, hopefully it's something that comes back in the future. And I really hope that they do other events with NieR as well. Even though NieR Replicant wouldn't really fit so much in the universe of this, I'm sure that they could find a way to make it work. Sorry, I keep yawning. It's very early here. So I feel like that is something that they'd be able to make work in the future, especially since they've already had the NieR Automata collab. It would be really nice to actually see more collaborations with Punishing Gray Raven within other gacha games. I could definitely see NieR Reincarnation doing something like that, or something similar in the future, because they've had collabs with each other. Or even just doing a NieR Reincarnation collab in PGR. Again, wouldn't really make sense for a story, but, you know, just for the fact that they're both gacha games could be pretty unique, and could be cool to get those unique character skins. But in conclusion, definitely one of the best events that I've ever played personally. Would tell you to absolutely get on that if it does come around again, and just in general, give PGR a try. But that's all I have for this one. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content and you want to see more. I don't talk very often, and that's probably a good thing. Thank you guys so much for your continued support of my channel, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Alright, ciao you guys.